It's the first week in December, 1941, Christmas season in America. It's a time of peace for the United States, though most everyone realized that war clouds loomed just over the horizon. But that first week in December, nobody guessed how close the storm of war really was. While Americans stateside enjoyed the Christmas season, the sailors of the United States Pacific Fleet slowly geared up for war. The first days of December were spent out on maneuvers, practicing gunnery, conducting air raid drills, and honing their skills.
As time went on, the training schedule for the Arizona became much busier. We went out every week and did more target shooting than we had done before. I don't ever remember any anti-aircraft drill, but I know we had some long-range shooting with the main battery.
The men grumbled at the regiment, which seemed overly harsh. Later, they would look back and sadly conclude that for all their preparation, the fleet was hardly ready for war.
You thought you knew how to fight a war, but wasn't really, I guess the state of mind wasn't such to really recognize what it would entail. We went out on a big battle exercise just before Pearl Harbor occurred in early December, and one night we had to stay at our battle stations until 11 p.m. and we were really grousing because we missed the movie. So I think that gives you a little bit of the state of mind. We knew there was things going on, but really had no concept of really how serious things were getting.
The truth of the matter is we didn't know how to fight a war. The first year of the war was a big learning experience for the U.S. Navy. Learned from the Japanese.
On Friday, December 5th, the men of the Pacific Fleet relaxed as their vessels sailed back to Pearl Harbor. For the first time in months, the entire battle line would be in port for a weekend, guaranteeing full bars and great parties in Honolulu before the training schedule began again on Monday morning.
Normal routine was when we'd come into Pearl Harbor, Friday afternoon late, 4 or 5 or something, the other battleships would just be leaving on their 2 weeks of maneuvers, practice, gunnery and all the drills. And so we'd come in, we'd tie up where they'd been. Well, this Friday, nobody had left. Everybody was still tied up. So we just went in there and tied up alongside of them, or wherever there was space. Whether it was on purpose or it wasn't, I don't know. Kind of seems fishy after all these years.
Saturday, December 6th, the last day of peace in the Pacific. Sailors and soldiers alike spilled out of the bases dotting Oahu, eager for some well-earned R&R. Ensign Harry Fitch, a young repair officer stationed aboard the Arizona, went ashore that day to do some Christmas shopping.
On Saturday, after inspection, I went ashore to see if I could find something suitable for Christmas for my mother. So I went to a big department store in Honolulu. And I went there to see what I could find, and she probably could use a set of dishes. So I bought a set of dishes. The girl that was helping me do that was good-looking and hospitable, and girls were very hard to find in Honolulu. I hadn't had a date in 6 months. So I asked her for a date. She unfortunately had a date that night, but she said she could find a friend, or she would try, and she did. And so I was set up for a date in the evening.
Everett Reed, stationed on the Arizona, went ashore to see his wife Barbara and celebrate his 24th birthday at a local bar.
I celebrated my birthday on the 6th. I had a duty, but I got a standby and went ashore. Barbara was in Hawaii. And that night, there were several of my shipmates and their wives. We were at the Waikiki Tavern. And I was drinking Singapore Slings. And I asked the group, I said, how's your drinks? Never got drinks like this before, not in that place. They were like triples. The Japanese bartenders, they knew what was coming out.
As dusk settled over Oahu that night, the parties began in full swing. The bars filled with off-duty sailors, soldiers, and airmen. Nightclubs hosted giddy dances and bright, bouncy music echoed through the tropical night.
When we met for the date, I was introduced to my date, Dolly Gibson, an amiable, full-bodied creature. And we got along fine, dancing, had a wonderful time. We danced and had fun till all of a sudden I realized that it was already too late for me to catch a boat back to the ship. I had planned on being back at 12 o'clock, but it did not really matter because I was entitled to be away from the ship until 8 o'clock in the morning when they would have a muster. And so I planned to get back in time for the muster. And I stayed at a little motel at Waikiki Beach.
Not everyone partied that night, however. Aboard the battleship Arizona, many sailors remained, passing the night quietly.
The only people that stayed ashore overnight were special privileges or somebody's wife was there. Otherwise, everybody on board ship was back aboard ship by 1 o'clock in the morning. That was automatic.
Scott Lamb, a 22-year-old PBY crewman, had just arrived in Pearl Harbor after a long voyage from California.
We arrived in Pearl Harbor on, I think it was on Friday night. We tied up out from the Arizona railways in the middle of the bay into a buoy. And they took us guys ashore and we checked in the barracks and we walked down Battleship Row. We thought, boy, those ships are something else. I never seen anything that big. And when we checked in the barracks, the Master at Arms was assigning us bunks and lockers. And I asked him, I said, what do you think of the chance of the Japanese coming in here? He said, look out there. He said, they wouldn't dare come in here. So then we walked down that road and I thought, boy, he's right. With all that firepower, they wouldn't dare come in here.
As the men of the Pacific Fleet enjoyed their last night of peace, the Japanese submarines off Oahu's southern coast took up their final positions and made ready to launch their midget subs. To the north, after battling heavy seas and pouring rain for almost 2 weeks, the Japanese aircraft carriers steamed into attack range, 180 miles from Oahu.
In winter, the North Pacific is always rough. That was why we took that route, in order to be incognito. It's too dangerous for commercial ships to be there during the winter season, so nobody would be traveling that route.
Throughout the ship, last-minute details were tended to. Aircraft were spotted on deck. The airmen underwent one final briefing, and some men took time to pray for final victory. All knew that just over the horizon, the Americans waited, unaware that the last few minutes of peace were at hand.